Whispers between the trees. The forest began where the light ended. As the final rays of dusk melted into the horizon, Ellie and her younger brother Max stood at the trailhead, their breaths visible in the crisp October air. "You hear it, don't you?" Max whispered, his voice barely audible. Ellie's stomach nodded. She had heard it. Faint, ghostly whispers, soft as wind through leaves, yet unmistakably human. "Probably the wind," she lied, gripping Max's flashlight tighter. She couldn't show fear. Max needed her to be strong. They were here for a reason. Their dog, Milo, had bolted into the forest hours ago, his distressed barks swallowed by the dense canopy. They couldn't just leave him. Not yet. The forest was an entity of its own. Gnarled branches clawed at the sky, forming grotesque shapes against the faint moonlight. Every step they took seemed louder than it should have been, crunching leaves and snapping twigs, echoing in the unnerving silence. "Ellie!" Max stopped abruptly, shining his flashlight ahead. "Look!" A figure stood between the trees, barely illuminated. It was tall, impossibly thin, and shrouded in shadow. Before Ellie could say a word, it moved, vanishing into the darkness without a sound. Her heart thundered. "Probably just someone camping," she said, but her voice cracked. "Come on, Milo's collar has a reflector. Keep an eye out." The whispers grew louder as they ventured deeper. Words Ellie couldn't understand, yet they gnawed at her mind, like echoes of forgotten nightmares. Max's flashlight flickered, then went out. "Ellie!" Max yelped, fumbling with the light. "It's fine," Ellie said, her voice trembling. She turned on her flashlight, its beam cutting through the suffocating blackness. A sudden rustling to their left made both of them jump. "Milo?" Ellie called out, her voice barely above a whisper. No response. Instead, the whispers surged, a chorus of unintelligible murmurs that seemed to surround them. "Ellie!" Max tugged at her sleeve. "I don't think we're alone." A branch snapped behind them. Ellie spun around, her flashlight catching a fleeting glimpse of something pale slipping behind a tree. Her pulse quickened. "We need to go," she said, gripping Max's hand. They hurried forward, their pace quickening with every step. But the forest seemed endless, every tree identical, every path leading nowhere. The whispers grew maddeningly loud, overlapping and frenzied. Then they saw it. Milo's collar, lying in a bed of leaves. No sign of blood, no sign of him. Just the collar. Ellie bent to pick it up, and as she did, the whisper stopped. Silence, heavy and unnatural. "Ellie," Max's voice quavered. "Look up." She followed his gaze. Dozens of eyes stared back at them from the branches above, glowing faintly in the dim light. The figures attached to them were emaciated, their limbs unnaturally long, their faces devoid of features except for wide, hollow mouths. One of them dropped from the trees with a sickening thud, landing mere feet away. Its head cocked to the side, and it let out a low, guttural noise, like a laugh. "Run!" Ellie screamed, pulling Max with her. They tore through the forest, the creature's movements eerily silent as they pursued, their elongated limbs stretching impossibly far. A root caught Ellie's foot, sending her sprawling. Max skidded to a halt, helping her up. In the chaos, her flashlight tumbled away, its beam illuminating a nearby tree. Carved into the bark was a name, her name. Ellie froze. Dozens more trees around them bore the same, each etched with her name, some fresh, others weathered with age. "Ellie," Max whispered, his voice trembling. "Why is your name here?" Before she could answer, Max was yanked backward into the darkness. His scream was short-lived, swallowed by the forest. Ellie turned, her own voice tearing from her throat. The whispers returned, deafening now, each one clearly speaking her name. The figures closed in, their mouths stretching impossibly wide, their laughter echoing through the trees. And then she understood. The forest didn't want Milo. It had never wanted him. It wanted her.